Tell me how you started e-commerce.
So I got into e-commerce in 2020 after I finished my university. Now, at the time, I was going for jobs and I couldn't find anything. I was looking at basic sales jobs in London. I went to a bunch of interviews, but I ultimately couldn't get a job that I was looking for.
So what jobs did you try?
So I went and applied for basic sales jobs, very entry level, ones that required absolutely zero skills, and obviously they'd teach you at the beginning. But at this point, I was very lost with my direction. I ultimately didn't know where I wanted to be, what I wanted to do. And my whole life I spent just going around in circles, going through the education system in England, which is very broken. I went to university, finished it, had no motivation to even get a job. Unfortunately for me, the best thing that actually happened was COVID-19 because it gave me the chance just to go and work and figure all this stuff out on myself. So what I did, I started going on YouTube, I started buying books very heavily, started reading, investing in myself. And this gave me a platform. Now at the time, I had a really broken mindset, but one thing I managed to understand was that I had to learn things from the beginning. So I would really say, and this is true, that your education starts after you finish traditional education. That's why I encourage people to invest in themselves, start reading heavily, self-help books, business books, and going and getting yourself really stuck into something. You don't have to succeed straight away, but ultimately if you're motivated and you're willing to learn, you'll pick things up pretty quickly.
So was the competition high when COVID started?
When I started Ecom and when I started my business, what you have to understand, it was 2020 and competition is exactly the same as it was back in 2020. What you have to understand is that you're only competing with yourself and who you were yesterday. You can always look at other people that are arguably ahead of you or they have more experience. But what you really need to understand is when you're in business, you're only competing with yourself who you were yesterday and 1 year ago.
Did you see success from the first time that you launched a store?
The first store that I ever did was a success, and that's because I spent 9 months of immensely preparing to launch. I studied all the competition every single day for 9 months straight, looking at every single product they sold, every piece of copy on their website, every single ad that they launched previously and that they were launching in real time. So yeah, I did have success, but many people don't have success, and this is ultimately due to the preparation that they're not doing.
And this is where they stop most of the times. They quit
Yeah,
if they don't, or they think that it's that easy to succeed.
right.
You don't have to do any work. You don't have to spend your days working on that laptop,
Yeah.
be tired.
What people fail to understand is that when you start something like online marketing, for example, when they're doing their e-commerce stores, is they think that it's a get-rich-quick scheme. They don't understand that it's a real business. That
They don't have the mindset.
they have no mindset because their mindset's broken. The number one thing people should be doing is working on having a rock solid mindset so that they can take these hits in life. Because ultimately, look, when you start business, you've got money on the line, you've time invested, and it's very challenging. But if you can have a rock solid mindset, understand that, look, there's a process to everything, that you have to learn these skills. But ultimately, if you can get over these issues, if you can be resilient, which is so important nowadays. Most people are very soft nowadays. You know, not everything goes to plan. Your job is to fix these issues when they arise. But ultimately, if you're not willing to invest in yourself, not willing to take a chance, and you're just expecting that a 9 to 5 job is going to provide you the life that you want, when we all know that this is not the case. You know, I can look back and when I was in school, and if I think to myself, how many people are probably just doing a job that they really fucking hate? I'd say 90% of the kids in the class that I went to school with, and this is 12 years ago, but look, technology is always improving. You have the ability to work from anywhere if you're smart. You have a smartphone. The name of the phone is smartphone. And if people aren't applying what they could do with these phones, with modern technology, with an iMac, you know, an iMac costs 1,500. Why doesn't everyone have one of these and work all day, every day until they can learn a real skill?
Okay, so basically you're coming, as I understood, from a traditional family where they believe that university is that important in life and it can provide you the success, for example. So you somehow went against this thought and you tried to find your path in e-commerce. Did your family support you here, or they had a contradiction?
You know, ultimately at the very start, it was very challenging. Now, I told you that COVID for me was the best time of my life because it gave me an excuse to not go and get a job, but it gave me a reason to work all day, every single day. from my bedroom, working relentless hours so that I can learn skills in a fast time frame. Now, because the whole world was on standstill, most people, if you look around you back in COVID, most people were doing nothing. They found an excuse to do nothing with their lives. They were probably playing video games or watching movies 24/7. But for me, I saw this as a great opportunity because we understand the 21st century, there was a massive shift in the way that people worked, lived, and played. So in COVID, for me, it was the best time. But of course, this came with some issues. Um, of course, it came with some issues with my family, but me and my brother stuck together. And when you have a good team around you, when you have a little mini mastermind, you can achieve things at a much greater rate.
Yeah, because I really believe that it's really important when your parents support you in a decision and that they don't argue against it. Because, for example, when I started this, I told my Mom, I want to start e-commerce. And she said, yeah, of course, do it, and I will help you here. And even if you don't succeed in this, then you've discovered a new skill maybe, and you can always do it. I mean, it's about how many times you try. It's not about that you will fail once and forever. So I think it's really important when you have people around you that make you believe in yourself.
Exactly. Look, the number one thing you have to do when you're starting your career out in business, doing things for yourself, becoming an entrepreneur, is believe in yourself and have that ultimate confidence. You're not going to get it overnight, but if you stack enough skills, then you have something really tangible. You have something that can never be taken away from you.
What was your biggest monetary loss?
Back in 2022, I remember I reached out to an influencer on TikTok who was very big in the UK music scene. He was a rapper. Now he had millions of followers, and we thought that this would work for our ideal customer, for our brand Undeniable London. Me and my brother thought, okay, we've managed to get hold of this guy. Look, let's take the risk. So we invested, and it was a large sum for the brand at the time. It was a really large amount of money for the time for the brand. We have recently scaled the brand up to about 75,000 in a month, and we were taking a large sum of profits during that quarter, and we were going to go and invest it into this influencer. We had successful collaborations with many influencers, but the biggest loss we ever took was when we uploaded this video onto their Instagram, onto our brand page, and ultimately, look, it got 0 sales. For whatever reason, it didn't work. And at the time, it's very deflating, but this is just part of the game. And you have to understand that you're going to take losses, but we have to understand that if you keep trying, you'll find someone. And ultimately, look, we had 3 to 5 successful influencers that took the brand all the way from 20K a month, all the way up to 100K plus in a month, using their creatives as adverts and organically. Now, this is just one of the ways that and showcases that if you keep on persisting, then you will inevitably find something or someone that works.
5 motivational advices that you would give to a beginner.
So the first piece of advice I would say is start today. Most people procrastinate and waste all their time. There's no time like the present, and if you're willing to invest in yourself, your life can change. Number 2, learn from people way ahead of you. You need to have mentors. You need to have people that are way more skilled than you. Otherwise, you're just going to be going around in circles looking for free information online that will ultimately not get you to the place that you require. You need these mentors, not really just for the information, but for the process. They can map out a game plan, and if you have a game plan, then you can execute on it. The next piece of advice I would say is don't listen to people that are on the same level as you or below you. You're not going to learn anything. You can only learn from people that are ahead of you. So stop listening to people around you that are not where you want to be in life. The next piece of advice is that you have to commit to yourself. You have to make an agreement with yourself, and you have to make sure you take action every single day. You have to have this written down and make a commitment so that you will achieve your goals and you can never give up on them. My final piece of advice would be that you have to understand that you're going to take losses. Nothing is going to happen overnight, but if you commit every single day to learning and getting these experiences and lessons, then you will inevitably achieve more than you can ever think.
Yeah, and even if you lost, you at least tried. And you still will have this piece of experience, you will have this knowledge, and anytime you can use it.
Exactly. You're never going to end up becoming the person that you want to become without taking a few losses along the way. And ultimately, the more losses you can stack, the more chance you'll succeed and ultimately become the man you want to become.
And the more lessons you learn, so you can reuse them into future.
Exactly. Everything can be applied to the next business venture, the next part of your journey.